Okie dokie. Poop. FAQ, Q&A, AMA, Part 1, 2026. Baby. I'm just gonna start answering questions. I can't come up with an intro. How was your first dude born? Just like everybody else. One leg at a time. No, what first got you into D&D? Probably the same thing as a lot of people. I was a theater kid in high school, and I liked to draw things. The first game of D&D I played was freshman or sophomore year. I was a Goliath warden named Straight 8, because he was 8 feet tall. How long do you generally take to complete a dude? Anywhere between like 20 to 45 minutes of just pure pen on paper time. The rest of the time is thinking of the character. Sometimes I'll roll the things and then I'll sit on it for a couple hours or even a day or so, because I like to try to keep ahead. And then I'll just think of the different characters or different interpretations of the roles for whatever character I could come up with. But the actual drawing time is generally under an hour. I don't think there's been one where it's exceeded the hour. It's usually like anywhere from 8 to 15 minutes tops for each step. Inking and coloring and penciling is usually less than that. What other hobbies do you have? Too many, probably. I do a lot of drawing and gaming, and I just learned to read again. That was cool. I recently started sculpting and painting some miniatures. That's been pretty fun. I dabble in music and drinking. I don't know. Do you like to listen to music when you draw? Sometimes. I like to listen to oldies. You know, Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, that type of stuff. Old soul, blues, R&B, some funk. I've been into Sleep Token and Coheed and Cambria lately. And sea shanties. Sometimes I'll just listen to like YouTube drama slop. That's always fun. Just, you know, bullshit that can tune your brain off for a second. What got you to start Roll for Dudes? I saw a bunch of different channels doing Roll for X, and I was like, that's cool, I'm gonna steal that. Except I'm gonna draw pictures instead. Originally, it wasn't gonna be like an everyday upload thing. I wanted it to be a sort of short form content to funnel viewers into what I actually want to do, which is D&D live drawing sessions. So I sit in the corner of the game and I doodle little comics and funny things about what's happening while everybody's role playing, and then at the end of the day I pass around these little stacks of comics and people laugh, and it's fun for me. What are your favorite TTRPGs / tabletop games? I've actually only played D&D. I started in 3.5 and then 4. And then we're on 5 now, right? Am I crazy? We're on 5th edition. Yeah, I tend to like games that are more communal storytelling, have fun, and less math and combat stuff. Like, that stuff's fun. I see the appeal, but it's just less. I'm much less interested in min-maxing and making interesting builds than I am in doing silly shit. Have you done some work in comics? Professionally, no, I guess. I do have some stuff in the works. Stay tuned later in this year. Baby! Do I have a favorite dude? I'll probably put him up here. But it's probably a dwarf. Or a troll or a goblin or something. I like drawing dwarves and gnomes. Little short bearded fellas. What's your favorite color? Orange. Obviously. Which artists are the ones you took most inspiration from when developing your art style? Well, I've been drawing since preschool, basically. I've been very self-motivated, self-taught. What I used to do in like middle school is I would find artists that I like and copy them and steal from them. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. It's an original quote. Some of my earliest influences are Bill Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes, Gary Larson, the Far Side comics. I get a lot of my sense of humor from Gary Larson. He's very good at succinct visual storytelling with layers of jokes. I love that stuff. Whoever did the pencil and inks for the earliest Bionicle comics, I learned how to draw rocks and mountains from you, so shout out to that guy. I definitely grew up watching a lot of anime. I did at one point in time own a physical Naruto headband. Eventually I decided to step away from more Eastern anime styles and kind of gear more into Western American comics. I didn't really read a lot of comics, but I definitely took a lot of inspiration from comic book artists. I really liked Ryan Ottley back in the day. I've never read an Invincible comic, and I've only seen the first season, but I really like the way he does cross-hatching and line weight, and I definitely learned a lot from copying his stuff. Kim Young-ji,
Kim Jong-gi.
the GOAT. Rest in peace. I'm still not over that, but he's great. I wouldn't say any of this guy is reflected in my style, but Zdzisław Beksinski is one of my favorite painters. Cool guy. Nothing tragic happened to him either. You're a traditionalist. Do you do art digitally too? Sometimes. I've definitely, especially with like AI and shit, I've leaned a lot more into physical mediums versus digital. But I do love animation, and as much of a masochist as I am, I'm not going to do that on paper. I'm going to do that digitally. I'll put a link somewhere, but here's my other channel. I did this Angerfoot drawing, probably the coolest, most fun I've had doing any type of digital art and coloring, because I usually don't really color that much. I actually don't like coloring that much. Someone asked what my thought process is for when I choose a lower number for how many colors, because I usually do one to 4 colors. Originally I was always doing 2, and then someone gave me the idea to roll for how many colors, and I was like, that would be fun. But sometimes the dude only needs 1 or 2 colors, and then anything more than that, it would start to get too noisy. And sometimes I want to do more colors, because that way I have a higher chance of getting a color that I think will work. If I have something with water or denim, I'm going to want blue. Or if I have like volcanic armor, I'm going to want the fire colors. And sometimes I'm lazy and I don't want to do a lot of colors or mixing. Tell us about your current/last D&D campaign and which character you got to play. The very last D&D thing that I did was a one-shot with some friends, and I actually played as this guy, one of my dudes, Sir Tumnus. It was fun. He's afraid of the dark. It was a very silly encounter. How'd you come up with the logo and animation? I stole the design from the D&D ampersand, and I made it a doodle, and I animated it myself. Do you have a regular D&D group? Not currently. If not, why? Because I'm 32 and scheduling is hard. Do you prefer to DM or play? I have only DM'd once in a homebrew one-shot with like 12 players, and it was a mess. It was fun, but maybe not the most ideal circumstances for a first-time DM. Or I tend to go for tanks or support or healers. I did a cleric once, and then I realized that I have access to the entire spell book, and you have to like choose the spells at the beginning of the thing, and it's like too many options. Give me a double shot, and I'll roll 2 dice, and I'll shoot you twice, buddy. What made you want to draw dudes? I don't ever want to stop drawing. That's what. What is your favorite D&D class and race? Dwarf. Dwarf. How long have you been drawing? Since preschool. I have been drawing since 1995. Do you plan the colors prior to making the final sketch? I do, and sometimes I usually have an idea of where I want colors to go, but at the end of it, the colors are really just about enhancing the visual clarity of the character, making sure things are consistent and clear, and you can tell, sometimes things can get a little messed up in the details. Sometimes I'll plan, this material is this color, and this material is that color. So I try to keep things consistent, like, if there's any straps or belts, things like that, try to keep those the same color. I'll sort of sit there and I'll plan ahead, like, okay, green, 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 and that's pink, and that's brown. Okay, and then I'll go to it. And then sometimes I just go for it. Why don't I use a D100 for the races/folk? I could. It started, when I first started, it was a much simpler setup. 20 list of races, just 12 classes, no secondaries, and then I think 12 armors and 20 weapons. So it was just 4 lists, easy peasy. And then eventually I added the secondaries, and I made more armor and weapons. So I could do a 100 eventually, but it's also a matter of condensing options, because I have choice paralysis. And also that way, if there's 100, I I need to weight the die in favor of drawing dwarves, is the thing. Alright, this guy says, hey, I just wanted to say I always enjoy your content. I find it great that you are challenging yourself even more, and I look forward to any content you make. Your time and effort you put into making videos and art also is inspiring. The genuine way you make art and fun is... That's not even a question. That's just a nice thing to say. What kind of drawing do you enjoy the most, and what's a style you haven't tried very much of, but one day will? I've always loved black and white. Most of my time drawing, or learning how to draw, in pencil paper, Micron pen, Sharpie, black and white ink. I love drawing with markers, Sharpies, Expo markers, that's fun. I like working with lines versus shapes or colors. I want to do more painting. I've done some painting. I find painting can be a lot more emotionally cathartic versus creatively cathartic, if that makes sense. When I'm drawing something, I have a picture or a character or something in my head that I want to see or develop or use for something, or to show people. Say, hey, look at this cool guy. But with painting, it's more like I want the feeling of whatever's in my body splattered on canvas. And that process is a lot different. Where did dude come from? I've never seen anyone spell it that way. Well, it's a shortening of doodle, and it also sounds like dude, D-U-D-E, obviously. But then I found out that it apparently means death in Dutch. So, to all my confused Dutch audience, thinking I had a completely different type of show. What are your favorite fantasy or just D&D related books, games, movies? Well, I have about 1,200 hours of Dark Souls 3 PvP. Definitely Dark Souls, RuneScape. There's a lot of D&D podcasts and, like Critical Role and stuff. I haven't actually listened to a lot of it. I listened to half of a NADPOD campaign. That was pretty fun. I just read Recipes for an Unexpected Afterlife by DJ Munden. That was pretty good. I like the way he describes magic. I love a good magic system. Is there a roll combo you haven't gotten yet that you're either really hoping happens or dreading? I still have not rolled a stick. I just want a stick so that I can post it to Stick Nation. That's all I want. What's the best D&D snack / drink in your opinion? Those little pretzel pouch things with peanut butter inside, you know what I'm talking about? And booze. Okay, we got a lot of questions from this one. What is your favorite marker to smell? Well, I have asthma now, so I can't smell Sharpies as much as I used to. I really like these permapakes because they are non-alcoholic and they feel just like Sharpies, but they don't have the contact high effect. Unless that's what you're looking for. Do you have a particular soundtrack or two you like listening to, either while brainstorming ideas or while drawing? Do you prefer the sound of silence? Sometimes I do silence. I'm almost always playing RuneScape in the background. I'm currently halfway to 95 mining. What's up? What would your self-insert donut steal D&D OC be? You know, my favorite character that I played was, his name was Anton Stodgley. He was a dwarf that was raised by humans and did not think he was a dwarf because my DM at the time was like, you can't play a dwarf. And I said, okay, but what if he doesn't think he's a dwarf? What if he's a human who's just very short, but he thinks he's a dwarf? And he said, okay. What is the average time to draw a dude? Again, maybe 20 to 45 minutes. Can you do a one-handed push-up? No. What is your stance on aliens? Wouldn't you like to know? I can't discuss that here, they're listening. Favorite wing flavor? Buffalo Ranch. Favorite childhood movie? I don't know about my favorite, but when I was a kid and I had a hard time falling asleep, I used to recite the entirety of either Shrek 1 or the Bionicle movie Toa of Light from beginning to end, all the dialogue, all the actions, sometimes both movies in a row, until I fell asleep. I'm sorry, I have undiagnosed what? What is my skincare routine? I wash it occasionally. Which restaurant has the best French fries? Okay. McDonald's fries in the car. And I like those, like the crunchy, textured, fat fries that some people have. I couldn't tell you who. Do you have a favorite bird? Yes, it is the northern cardinal. No further questions. What marker brands have you preferred using? I really like these guys. Permapake by Sakura. I'm not sponsored. They last pretty long. They feel super nice. They feel just like a Sharpie. They've got a chisel tip and a brush tip. And they're somewhere in between a Copic and like a Posca. You know, so they're not paint markers. They're not super opaque. They're not going to cover everything, but they are a little opaque. So if you see me, I tend to redo the black lines after I do the colors just to sharpen things up. But I've been really liking those. Do you have any specific places you get your wax seal and wax colors from? I got the custom seal from a site called Stamptude. And the wax I get from anywhere. You can get them from, you know, Michael's or stationery stores, art stores, stuff like that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love weed? Like a 6. Charitably. How do you get the motivation and mental stability of uploading a short daily? I quit my job. I do this full time now. I really like drawing. 30 minutes or so, not too bad.
Thanks for watching! If you want to support me any more than you already have just by getting to the end of the video, you can check out my Ko-Fi shop. You can like and subscribe. Bye!